Donald Trump's attempt, his concerted effort to erase the accomplishments of Black Americans is something I've been talking about, covering it. And it continues in a very dangerous way that reaches beyond the power of the presidency itself. I want to read a couple things here. I've got an AP article I want to read a couple paragraphs from. I've got an executive order from yesterday from Donald Trump. And I have proof that it is not within his power to commandeer, to hijack, to overtake in a hostile takeover the Smithsonian Institute, where he is specifically attacking the Black History Museum, the African American History and Culture Museum here, which, by the way, if you haven't gone, is a fantastic visit. It's a wonderful new addition to the Smithsonian lineup of museums here. Unbelievable displays and installations there. But let me read just, I'll put this on screen. This is his executive order. I want to read just a little bit from it to give you a flavor for the propaganda and the lies. And then we're going to get to why it's not within his purview as the President of the United States. But here we go. This is restoring truth and sanity to American history. The man who doesn't even know what year the Spanish flu was, who continues to ramble about conspiracy theories and lies and that the 2020 election was stolen or rigged or whatever. This is not someone we can rely upon for an accurate read on history when even the basics, like the Spanish flu of 1917, he gets one thing in his head and then he just sticks with it. Again, restoring truth and sanity to American history. By the authority vested in me as the president, by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. It's already off to a bad start. We'll get to it about the legal nature and the founding of the Smithsonian Institution. It's not within his purview to do any of this. Section 1, Purpose and Policy. Over the past decade, Americans have witnessed a concerted and widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history. Is it on the part of liberals and rational thinking individuals who want to rewrite our history, Donald Trump? Or is it you who wants to ban books and your Republican Party who wants to alter the understanding of history in our country? You want to bolster the lost cause nonsense of the Civil War. You want to re-erect Confederate monuments to traitors to our country. And you want to erase the contributions of Black Americans, of women, of Navajo code talkers. It is white supremacy run amok here. Replacing objective facts with a distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth, the revisionist movement seeks to undermine the remarkable achievements of the United States by casting its founding principles and historical milestones in a negative light. Under this historical revision, our nation's unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness is reconstructed as inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, or otherwise irredeemably flawed. Rather than fostering unity and a deeper understanding of our shared path, I love that. Fostering unity, he says. A deeper understanding of our shared path. Oh, yes. And widespread effort to rewrite history deepens societal divides and fosters a sense of national shame, disregarding the progress America has made and the ideals that continue to inspire millions around the globe. So he's admitting that some dark, horrific shit has taken place under the auspices of democracy in the United States. Otherwise, why would we need to make progress in any way, Donald Trump? But I love that. Rather than fostering unity and a deeper understanding of our shared past, what is it about our shared past, Donald Trump, that you want people to understand? Is it that we held Black people in bondage under a system that was raping and torturing and murdering them for hundreds of years? Is that the shared past that you want us to remember? Or is that the shared past you don't want taught? You say that white kids feel ashamed to be white because slavery took place in this country. Donald Trump doesn't have any ability legally to do what he is doing. I'm going to read a little bit from this AP article, but let me read this from the Smithsonian website. This is the legal history from the Office of General Counsel. The legal nature of the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian Institution is considered unique in the federal establishment. The Smithsonian is not an executive branch agency and does not exercise regulatory powers except over its own buildings and grounds. Thus, courts have held that the Smithsonian, is not an agency or authority of the government, as those terms are used in certain laws applicable to the executive branch agencies, such as the Privacy Act, the Administrative Procedure Act, the Freedom of Information Act, and the Federal Advisory Committee Act. However, the United States Attorney General has concluded that the Smithsonian is so closely connected to the federal government that it shares the immunity of the United States from state and local regulation. In accordance with this doctrine, local zoning regulations, ABC licensing provisions, sales and use taxes, and real estate taxes are not applicable to the Smithsonian absent a specific federal statute. And then they go through these other instances. Courts have also held that the Smithsonian enjoys the immunity of the United States from lawsuits unless such suits are authorized by Congress under federal statutes. And they go through there. The Smithsonian operates as a unique fixture in the United States government, and it does not fall under the purview of the President of the United States. It's not the Kennedy Center, Donald Trump. You don't just get to remake the board. You don't get to destroy artifacts and things held and owned by the Smithsonian by virtue of that, the government. You are not a king. And all of this is in an effort to erase the contributions of Black Americans, and he has his sights set specifically on the African American History and Culture Museum. I'm getting the full name of it wrong. The National Museum of African American History and Culture. So this is the article from the AP. There's 3 paragraphs I want to read. Trump executive order on Smithsonian targets funding for programs with improper ideology. Let me read 4 paragraphs. I'll read the first one here. President Trump on Thursday revealed his intention to force changes at the Smithsonian Institution with an executive order that targets funding for programs that advance divisive narratives and improper ideology, the latest step in a broadside against culture he deems too liberal. And then here we go. The executive order also hints at the return of statues and monuments of Confederate figures, many of which were taken down or replaced across the country after the police killing, the police murder. He was found guilty of murder. Associated Press. Not just killing, murder. Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd. Were taken down or replaced around the country after the police murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis in 2020 and the rise of Black Lives Matter movement, which is detested by Donald Trump and other conservatives. Trump singled out the National Museum of African American History and Culture, which opened in 2016 near the White House, the Women's History Museum, which is in development, and the American Art Museum for criticism. Quote, museums in our nation's capital should be places where individuals go to learn, not to be subjected to ideological indoctrination or divisive narratives that distort our shared history, he said. This is projection. All the things they're guilty of, they point and accuse others of. The only people that are trying to distort our shared history are Republicans. We want to tell the full story so we don't make the same mistakes we have in the past. We don't want to live in a country that oppresses marginalized groups, that murders members of marginalized groups. We don't want to forget the horrors that have taken place under the guise of white supremacy in this country. We don't want to forget that because we don't want it to happen again. We want to correct the wrongs of the past. That's why I advocate for reparations for descendants of slaves in this country. Donald Trump advocates for reparations for January 6th insurrectionists. He advocates for refugee status for white South Africans because, those scary black people are making it bad for them there. This is white supremacy. This is a concerted effort to erase, at the very least, the contributions of, but I think they would love a white ethno-state. They would love to erase the existence, or at least the residence and citizenship of black people in this country, because they pose a threat to Donald Trump and the order of white supremacy under color of law. What do you think, though? I would invite you to this conversation. You can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. If you appreciate what I do, if I bring you some value with the things that I talk about here, I would love if you would help me make these videos, help me produce this content. For $2 a month, you can do just that. Click the join button below, become a channel member, or go to my Patreon page, patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. Have a great weekend. See you next time. Love to hear from you. Be genuine. Take care of one another.